Have you noticed how some people want to understand everything before they act, while others step forward and only later reflect on their choices? When life presents a moral decision, do you reach for learning and explanation first, or do you act guided by what feels right? And more importantly, have you wondered which way truly leads to wisdom? In his teaching, the Buddha explained that hearts enter the path in different ways. Some are drawn first to learning, listening carefully, reflecting, and seeking clarity before moving. Others are drawn first to living rightly, choosing honesty, kindness, and restraint, even before they can explain why these choices matter. Neither approach is wrong. Both open doors to insight. The Buddha taught this simply yet profoundly through three concepts: Pariyatti, the learning of the path; Paṭipatti, the living of it, moment by moment; and Paṭivedha, the insight that unfolds when learning and living meet. This is not only for monks or scholars. It is reflected in how people speak when they are tired, how they act when no one is watching, and how they carry themselves through pressure, conflict, and care. Some know the teachings well, but struggle when life becomes uncomfortable. Others live ethically, yet quietly doubt whether they truly understand the path. The Buddha's guidance is both tender and empowering. You are not wrong, but you are not finished. Learning without practice is dry. Practice without understanding is fragile. When they come together, something real begins. This is an invitation, not a judgment. Notice where you begin and keep walking. Wisdom does not arise from thought alone, and peace does not come from intention alone. They grow when understanding shapes action, and action deepens understanding, right here in ordinary life. Pariyatti, when the mind seeks clarity. In the Buddha's teaching, Pariyatti is the deliberate learning of the path before stepping into it. It is not yet practice. It is the careful listening, the studying, the reading, the reflection on what causes suffering and what leads away from it. It is the mind asking, "What am I doing, and where does it lead?" Those who begin here are cautious, thoughtful, sincere. They pause because they have seen how easily life can lead to harm. They seek understanding before acting. They want to know the principles of intention, the consequences of action, and the patterns of mind and heart. Like someone learning the rules of driving before they get behind the wheel, they study the teachings to prepare themselves for the challenges ahead. Learning in this way is an act of care. It is an offering of responsibility to oneself and to the world. The Buddha did not criticize those who begin with study. He saw their effort as profound. Knowledge is not decoration. It is preparation. It readies the mind for moments when clarity matters most, when impulse can lead to suffering and discernment can lead to peace. Yet the Buddha was clear about the limits of learning alone. Understanding kindness is not the same as showing kindness under provocation. Knowing right speech does not automatically soften words when anger rises. Pariyatti points the way, but it does not yet move the feet. Knowledge can sit in the mind, tidy and precise, yet the heart remains untested. Many people today live in this space. They listen to talks, they read books, they reflect deeply. They can explain mindfulness, ethics, and compassion with elegance. And yet, when life presses in, stress at work, tension in family, a sudden confrontation, the old reactions can reappear. The mind may know, but the body has not yet learned. This is why the Buddha taught that learning prepares the ground, but experience reveals whether it has taken root. Pariyatti is meant to meet life. The test comes in irritation, in fear, in desire. It is there, in the heat of real moments, that knowledge either transforms into practice or remains theory. When teachings are carried into such moments, something subtle begins to shift. Knowledge stops being something remembered and starts becoming something lived. The quiet purpose of Pariyatti is readiness. It is not to make a person knowledgeable for pride's sake. It is to make them ready to respond differently, to choose wisely instead of reacting, to allow wisdom to move from page to mind, from mind to heart, from heart to action. It is the first step, the foundation on which practice and insight are built. Paṭipatti, when life becomes the teacher. Not everyone begins with study or careful reflection. Some people step onto the path through living. They do not wait to understand every principle before choosing to act rightly. This is Paṭipatti, learning through practice, through the ethical and mindful living of each moment. Here, experience leads, understanding follows. Paṭipatti is not about perfection. It is about attention. It is noticing how words, gestures, and choices carry consequences. It is choosing restraint when it would be easier to react. It is speaking truthfully when a lie would smooth things over. It is pausing before responding, not because a rule demands it, but because life has already taught the consequences of impulsive action. The Buddha honored this path. Ethical living purifies the mind in ways that theory alone cannot. When harm is reduced, mental noise softens. When actions are chosen with care, the heart feels relief. Anyone who has felt the quiet ease after making a difficult but honest choice knows this truth. The mind begins to trust itself, even before it fully understands why. Consider someone caring for another without formal training. At first, there's only effort and concern. Mistakes are made, frustration arises. Over time, sensitivity grows. They notice what comforts, what frustrates, what heals, what harms. Their wisdom emerges not from instruction, but from attentive living. This is how Paṭipatti teaches. Through responsibility, through presence, through consequences that cannot be ignored. Yet the Buddha was also clear that practice alone has its limits. Habits can harden. Actions can become mechanical. A person may do the right thing outwardly while carrying quiet resentment or misunderstanding. Restraint without reflection may become rigidity. Kindness without insight may lose depth. Ethical living, if unguided by understanding, risks being hollow or brittle. This is why Paṭipatti naturally leans toward learning. Life itself raises questions. Why does generosity free the heart? Why does anger feel powerful but leave exhaustion behind? Why does restraint create dignity rather than loss? These are not doubts. They are invitations. They arise naturally from lived experience, calling the mind to reflection. When practice and reflection meet, something remarkable happens. Actions are no longer forced. Choices are no longer confused. Life itself begins to confirm the teaching. No argument is needed. No external validation is required. The consequences of living ethically teach clearly, firmly, and compassionately. Paṭipatti is preparation in motion. It is the bridge that connects study to insight. Every choice, every moment of restraint, every act of presence becomes a teacher. Over time, Repeated attentiveness transforms habit into awareness, behavior into wisdom. The mind begins to recognize patterns, to understand the consequences of intention, to feel the quiet authority of lived ethics. The Buddha's teaching here is profound and practical. Paṭipatti shows that insight does not arise from ideas alone. It arises from experience, from the deliberate, attentive practice of right action. The path is not about knowing first and doing later, nor about acting blindly. It is about allowing life itself to teach, while the mind remains awake, attentive, and willing to learn. Paṭivedha, when insight moves through the heart. There comes a moment on the path when life stops being merely something to understand or endure. It is subtle, quiet, unannounced. This is Paṭivedha, the realization that emerges not from memorizing rules, not from repeated effort alone, but from the meeting of knowledge and experience, of mind and heart. It is insight that moves naturally through action, felt in each choice, alive in each breath. The Buddha spoke of this not as an abstract idea, but as a lived reality. He showed that learning and practice, each on its own, can guide, but only together do they transform. Knowledge alone is like a map memorized without ever stepping onto the road. Practice alone is like driving endlessly without knowing the terrain. Paṭivedha arises when the map has been studied, the road has been felt, and the journey finally flows with awareness and clarity. To see this, imagine 3 travelers preparing for a long road trip. The first has read every manual, studied every sign, memorized every route. Every contingency has been anticipated. This traveler carries Pariyatti, the learning. Their mind is precise, their planning careful, their knowledge complete. Yet when they sit behind the wheel, the rain falls harder than predicted, traffic shifts unpredictably, a sudden detour appears. The rules are known, but their body and heart hesitate. Knowledge alone cannot steady the nervous pulse or smooth the tension in their hands. The journey is still a teacher, demanding presence beyond preparation. The second traveler has spent countless hours on the road. Storms, potholes, heavy traffic, long nights behind the wheel, they have felt it all. This traveler carries Paṭipatti, the practice. Experience has honed skill, cultivated endurance, sharpened reflexes. Yet even here, fatigue creeps in. Old habits flare when the mind is distracted. Repetition hardens efficiency, sometimes rigidly. Action comes easily, but insight remains uneven. Some responses are wise, others automatic, still shaped by habit rather than clarity. Then there's the third traveler. They have studied and driven. They know the rules. They have felt the road. When rain pours, when GPS fails, when obstacles appear, they respond calmly, naturally. Decisions arise not from panic, not from rigid habit, not from rote memory. They flow from understanding shaped by experience, and from experience clarified by understanding. This is Paṭivedha, the insight that emerges when learning meets practice. It is alive, steady, and unforced. The heart does not need to stop and check. The mind does not need to calculate. Wisdom moves quietly, effortlessly, as the natural current of life itself. Paṭivedha does not promise perfection. Desire may flicker, irritation may flare, fear may arise. The world remains unpredictable. Yet these moments are met differently. The mind notices without being swept away. The heart feels fully, but does not contract. Action follows not from struggle, not from a rule book, but from clarity. The Buddha taught this as freedom in motion, an understanding so embodied it changes the way life is lived. This insight is humbling. Pride softens, blame loosens, the illusion of control fades, compassion deepens naturally, not because it is instructed, but because the mind recognizes its truth. The Buddha emphasized that insight cannot skip steps. Without learning, understanding becomes superficial. Without practice, understanding remains brittle. Only together, Paṭivedha flowers, and life itself becomes the teacher and the text simultaneously. Even after this insight begins to operate, life does not pause. Loss arrives. Mistakes happen. Words wound. Responsibilities press. Yet each moment carries the light of understanding. Ordinary interactions become opportunities for clarity. Every decision, no matter how small, holds weight. Wisdom is no longer a distant ideal or a concept memorized. It lives in the body, the breath, and the heart. Paṭivedha is the fruit of the path, not belief, not status, not perfection, but a mind that sees clearly enough to suffer less, to act with care, to love more. The Buddha called this a freedom that arises in the ordinary, a clarity that flows without effort, a presence that changes how the world is experienced without demanding it change. Here, insight is beautiful in its simplicity. Knowledge has been lived, practice has been refined, and together they give rise to a subtle authority within, a quiet wisdom that guides naturally, without tension, without compulsion. It is the lived teaching, the heart of the path made visible in action. Paṭivedha does not mark the end. Learning continues, practice continues, but now they move with less struggle, more grace. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. Each breath, each gesture, each word carries clarity. The Buddha's teaching is no longer a text or a lecture. It is a living presence, waiting to be known, felt, and embodied in the flow of life itself. Recognizing your doorway. The Buddha understood that hearts come to the path in different ways. Some are drawn first to learning, listening, reading, and reflecting. They seek clarity before they act, wanting to understand the rules of life as deeply as they understand the teachings. Others are drawn first to living rightly, to testing, stumbling, and adjusting as they go. They learn through action, through the consequences of their choices, through the quiet feedback of life itself. Neither is wrong, neither is better. Each is a doorway to the same house, the house of insight, wisdom, and freedom. Recognizing your doorway is not a test. It is an act of honesty, a gentle noticing of how your heart naturally begins. If your instinct is to study first, you may feel impatient when life demands action before you feel ready. If your instinct is to act first, you may feel unsure when consequences raise questions you cannot immediately answer. This is not failure, it is clarity. The Buddha's teaching points not to comparison or judgment, but to understanding and integration. Seeing where you naturally begin changes how you move. If learning comes first, let it flow into practice with tenderness. Speak with care, restrain impulses, uphold small commitments. Let reflection and understanding guide the first steps of action, even in ordinary moments. A conversation, a difficult choice, a silent decision to respond with kindness rather than irritation. If practice comes first, allow the living of life to raise questions that lead toward learning. Observe closely. Reflect honestly. Let the patterns of cause and effect in your own experience become a teacher. Notice what nourishes the heart, what weighs it down, what brings clarity, and what brings confusion. In this way, the actions themselves illuminate the teachings. The Buddha's teaching is clear and empowering. The path is not defined by the order of steps, but by the willingness to step fully, consciously, and with care. When learning and practice meet, insight begins to unfold. Moments that once felt ordinary become full of meaning. Choices carry quiet integrity. Actions flow more naturally, less from effort, more from understanding. This recognition is liberating. It dissolves the illusion that one must know enough before acting or be ready before learning. Readiness emerges through action. Understanding grows through experience. Insight arises from the delicate meeting of preparation and engagement. Even a single, honest step is enough to begin the unfolding. Look closely at your own life. Notice where your natural doorway lies. A kind word spoken when impatience was rising. A pause before reacting to tension. A choice made without hesitation, guided by clarity that has grown slowly, quietly, from both reflection and lived experience. These are glimpses of the doorway you already occupy, moments where the Buddha's teaching is alive in your hands, your voice, and your heart. And as you recognize your doorway, you also see the way forward. Learning deepens practice, practice sharpens understanding, and insight grows quietly in the spaces between. The Buddha's invitation is gentle, persistent, and clear. Step honestly, step fully. Allow the meeting of reflection and action, and let life itself become your teacher. In this, the path is not distant. It is here, waiting in every ordinary moment, offering the possibility of awakening, freedom, and clarity. Integration, letting wisdom flow through life. Now imagine the path not as three separate stages, but as a single living flow. Learning, living, and realizing. Pariyatti, Paṭipatti, Paṭivedha. They are not boxes to tick, not milestones on a rigid checklist. They are threads, delicate and strong, woven through the fabric of daily life. Every breath, every conversation, every choice is an opportunity to strengthen the weave. Life will continue to test understanding and practice. Frustration appears unbidden. Mistakes happen, even when intentions are pure. Words cut sharper than intended. Actions fall short. Yet in those moments, the teaching is present, alive. Learning guides the mind to what matters. Practice shapes the heart to what works. Insight reveals the very core of experience. Each moment, no matter how ordinary or challenging, reinforces the others. Nothing is wasted. Every reflection, every act of care, every pause before a reaction adds to growth. Quietly, profoundly. Notice how this feels in your own life. Do you lean toward learning first, mapping every step, weighing consequences, measuring readiness? Or do you lean toward acting first, moving boldly, learning through mistakes, letting experience guide understanding? Neither path is incomplete. Neither path is separate from the other. Both, pursued sincerely, converge naturally toward the same destination. Insight that is steady, alive, and transformative. The Buddha's teaching is simple, yet profoundly tender. Begin where you are, fully, honestly. Let understanding guide action, and let action deepen understanding. Do not wait for perfection. Do not wait for readiness. Begin now in the small choices, the quiet moments, the habitual gestures. Speak truthfully. Act with care. Pause with attention. Let insight grow organically from these seeds. Every small decision matters. every deliberate act of kindness, every moment of restraint when impatience rises. These are not minor or insignificant. They are the living practice of wisdom, shaping the mind, softening habit, opening space for clarity. Ordinary life, when approached this way, carries extraordinary weight. The heart rests more easily. Compassion flows naturally. Peace becomes not a distant ideal, but a practical, attainable reality. Watch carefully, act carefully, reflect deeply. Allow your own life to teach you. Let learning move into practice. Let practice illuminate learning, and let both together open the door to insight. Each moment becomes a classroom. Each choice becomes a teacher. Each day offers the possibility of awakening. The Buddha's invitation is constant, gentle, and unwavering. Walk the path attentively, with honesty, with compassion. Let wisdom grow in your hands, in your speech, in your actions, and in your heart. In doing so, you discover that the teachings are never distant, never abstract. They are alive. They are here. They are the breathing, living reality of every moment, waiting quietly to be known, embodied, and realized. If this wisdom resonates with you, please like this video and subscribe to join us on the path of conscious living.